Tesla Tom, welcome to the Meeting Podcast. How are you?
Very well, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Anything sort of interesting happening in the EV world, last week, whether it be an event, something interesting coming out? What sort of was the highlight of the week?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I follow Tesla for sure, of course, given
I
my
think you do.
alias Tesla, Tom. But I'm also very interested in other brands as well. Try to be agnostic as much as I can. Like I'm promoting all EVs. But
You're pretty
yeah,
biased, but looking at the background, though.
yeah, obviously, yes, there's some bias, of course. But so I'll give you a test from Tesla's point of view. The Model Y is being delivered as we speak, probably in Port Kembla. It's where it's being unloaded off a ship, from what I see on social media.
Okay.
So the very first Model Ys are being delivered in Australia very soon. That's what I'm excited about. On the flip side, the other brand I'm very keen on is BYD, which has got a great reputation worldwide. Not so much well known in Australia yet, but I think that will change very soon. And their very first cars will be delivered soon as well. So I'm looking out for that brand coming very
interesting.
Shortly.
With BYD, are they going via the very similar sales route of Tesla, or are they utilizing more of a distributor to push out the vehicles?
Yeah, I believe they are following Tesla's lead in that you order it online, like Tesla, and then you can configure it online. There's no wiggle room at the price. You can't haggle it like in traditional dealerships. So, the price is the price. That way everyone is happy with what they pay because it's the same price as everyone else. And yeah, I think that's the way of the future with not just the EVs, but with cars in general.
I'm not too sure about the whole sort of subscription when it comes to after car purchase, but that seems maybe, I don't know, 2-3 years. I'm guessing Tesla is probably one of the pioneers, I believe, when it comes to something like that, if it were to be sort of implemented. Or
you mean like a car subscription rather than purchasing it?
Yeah, well, I heard about, I think you can go sort of both ways, right? I think it was sort of BMW who originally came out with a car subscription on top of the original purchase price. So if you wanted, additional software updates that will get transmitted to your car, you would have to pay $20 a month, for example. I'm not too sure if you heard about sort of the whole subscription add-on revenue that manufacturers are going towards.
Yeah, actually, Jeff, can I just one second? I just forgot to check my audio. Is it coming through okay?
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's not like echoey or anything. Okay,
cool. No, you're brilliant.
No, I was gonna sometimes it sounds echoey if I'm on the wrong setting. But okay, if you're happy with it, then I'll.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy.
Okay. Yep.
Yes. So curious about your thoughts about the whole subscription thing.
Yeah, so I think so Tesla has got a subscription model already with some software features. So it's called premium connectivity. So if you want extra things like Spotify or maps with satellite view or things like that, then you do pay an extra, I think it's $10 per month currently. If you want the basic stuff, it's included, although that's about to change, but that's a different story. But overall, it's $10 per month for that kind of thing. I think there's been talk of full self-driving subscription coming soon as well. That's not been released yet anywhere, but the aim is to have autopilot, like advanced autopilot features, again with a subscription model. Instead of paying it up front, you can maybe turn it on and off if you're going on a road trip or something like that, if you need those features for a longer drive rather than having it on all the time. So that's another thing. And then again, I guess one day, I guess Elon Musk's vision is to have robo-taxis or cars that drive us around, right, on the roads. I don't know whether that'll happen in my lifetime, but whether we see that in a more confined test track or something, that'd be cool to see. Like communities where cars drive the residents around, I'd love to see that. Who knows? I don't know.
It was interesting, I think my wife was reading a sort of an ethical question when it comes to autonomous driving. And she goes to me, okay, if you have a situation, for example, where you're going down a highway, you're basically hands-free, it's all autopilot, and there's a situation where there's an upcoming crash. If you turn left, you hit one person. If you turn right, you hit two. If you go forward, you're going to hit a pole, for example. How would that sort of work? I don't know. I'm curious to see, would you get the AI to maybe go, you know what, to save the greater good, will turn right and save 2 lives, or?
Yeah, that sounds like a philosophical riddle, doesn't it?
I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
curious. She goes to me,
yeah,
what do you think, Jeff? I go, you know what? That's a tough question.
yeah.
And I think personally, what would I do?
It's a tough question. Like
Mm.
a full self-driving aside, what would you do even if you're driving your own car driving down the street? What would you swerve to avoid, or who do you who do you value more as the life you want to save, I guess?
That's true, eh?
I mean, obviously now the liability rests, I would have thought, with us as the
Mm.
driver, but who knows if someone else is driving the vehicle, does the liability lie with the owner of that vehicle or owner of the AI or the software? Yeah, I mean,
Hard to sort
that's
of
a tough
say.
question, right?
So with the autopilot, Tom,
Mm.
is that allowed in Australia, or is it more in the sense of you must at least all the time put like some sort of touch on the steering wheel or the yoke on the Model S,
There you
for
go.
example?
So in New South Wales, where I am, the
Mm.
rule very clearly states you must have hands on the wheel at all times. So that's what I practice, and on my videos you'll see that I've got at least one, if not two, both hands on the wheel. Just I'm always in control. I'm
Yeah.
never sipping coffee or going to sleep or whatever. I think that's insane. That you shouldn't be doing that ever, whether it's autonomous or not at the
Mm.
moment. And autopilot, I mean, it's legal in that, yes, it does work on our roads, and there are certainly degrees of autopilot, and there are levels of autonomous driving. And I believe currently Tesla's autopilot is level 2, I think, where it's
Mm.
essentially just augmented or assisted driving rather than autonomous. So still very low in
Yeah.
that you've just got to monitor it. You can't let it do its own thing. And the software doesn't allow you to do that. You've actually got to tell the car you're still alive. You've got to wiggle the steering wheel a little bit every
Got
now
it.
and then. It'll
So I'm
flash.
guessing it turns on every half an hour where you got to be alert to it.
Oh, not even half an hour. Every like 30 seconds, it'll flash on your
Wow.
screen. You need to wiggle the wheel. So there's no chance of it. There's no chance of you falling asleep because it'll just wake you up.
Mm.
And there are videos on the internet where if the passenger, or if the driver is deliberately ignoring it for to show what happens, the car will just stop on the road. So it doesn't keep driving if you ignore it.
Wow. So if we go to level 3, would that be pure autonomy, or?
No, I think there's like 5 or 6 according to the US. I think it's EPA or something like that. One of the
Mhm.
bodies has got it all worked out. No, I think 3 is. I'll have to check my notes, but I think 3 is still not close. I don't think there's any company in Australia yet that's past 2. I think Tesla is probably still the most advanced at this stage, and it's still
Got it.
very early days.
Interesting. Because I know I don't want to talk about purely Tesla, despite your name. I know you and we had a conversation beforehand about, if you were to go for any EV, who would you go for? And I think your decision was quite unanimous. Tell me more a bit about BYD. Would you consider them more sort of the mid-lower range that allows EV adoption to occur at a much more accelerated pace, or?
Yeah, look, I think Tesla's got a reputation of not being a cheap car. You're looking at over 60 grand for a Model 3, which is the cheapest car currently. So a lot of people don't accept that as a reasonable price to pay for a car. And I think that's where companies like BYD, and I think we'll start to see a lot of brands coming out of China in the next 5 to 10 years where it's a bit more affordable.
I think MG's coming out, I believe, are quite sort of reasonably priced.
Yep,
MG,
that's correct. Yep, MG is now owned by a Chinese company, and the MG Mark 1 is already here, the ZS EV. That's currently got the mantle of the cheapest car that's available for sale. As in,
maybe
it's on the roads.
45K?
I think so, yeah. I mean, BYD, when the car comes, then that will be the cheapest car that's on the road. You can still order it, but it's not here yet. But when it does come here, I think it'll be the number 1 cheapest car.
Got it.
As you said, Jeff, it's what we need. We need affordable vehicles for people to get into. And I think 40 to 50 grand is about right, I think, for the mass market adoption in Australia. Obviously, it's still more expensive for some people, but if you look at the bell curve, it's hitting pretty close to that median for an affordable.
We just got to make sure us here in Australia, we utilize all the lithium around us, right? And put the value add back here in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got lithium. I think we're the second largest reserve of lithium in the world, from what I've read. I guess the issue has always been the processing, the actual production of vehicles. Like, we mine the stuff out of the ground, but we've got to ship it overseas to get it produced, because we don't make cars anymore on a large level anymore.
I read an interesting article where it said that essentially, since the raw lithium needs to be transported and refined, China essentially owns, so to speak, 80% of the market.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Like China is where stuff is made, so yeah, I mean our minerals are available to them and anyone else who wants to make them until we actually start to produce the cars here in Australia.
I'm curious about sort of the batteries. Moving from sort of lithium. Obviously, the batteries consist of sort of cobalt, nickel, magnesium, a variety of sort of minerals, right? I believe in general, Tesla batteries would last 15, 20 years, I believe, in terms of life, or
yeah.
So it's quite substantial, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's no one, I guess no one knows yet. The first production Model S only came out in 2012, so we're only up to year 10 at the moment. I've got a 2015 Model S, so that's year 7. And it hasn't, I think last count it was about 10% loss in range.
Okay, so degradation is minimal.
It's minimal, yeah. And most people online will tell you, and I've seen some graphs published that it does drop, yes, but then it plateaus. You don't see a huge drop at the end. I think a large part of that success has been the fact that they've worked out batteries don't like to be charged, don't like to rest at a high state of charge or a low state of charge. So if you can cycle it in that range for most of the day, you should improve longevity.
Wow.
Yeah. And Apple's clued on too. You'll see that your new iPhones, there's like options to optimize the battery life.
There's sort of a symbol that sort of comes up, charging for optimal level.
Correct. Yeah. So it'll leave it at 80% until like 4 a.m. or whatever, until you need it 100% at 6 a.m. So I think that's quite clever what Apple's done.
Yeah, but I don't know, Tesla, Tom. 2015 model. I think you need to get back into the times now. Is there actually much difference in terms of the models, in terms of the cars? Because I'm very curious in general, where do you go for an internal combustion engine or where do you go for an EV? Have cars in general hit a max in terms of, or a peak in terms of technology?
Oh gee, that's a tough one. I think look, I'm actually not a car person, so I don't really know much about ICE cars, believe it or not. I mean, the vibe.
I know you got a secret V6. It's got 2 turbos in the back. Yeah. I sort of heard it a bit in the background.
Yeah, well, funnily that was my very last ICE car was a diesel SUV. That's my secret shame. That's what moved me over to an EV.
Terrible. I don't think you can be Tesla Tom anymore.
Oh, hang my head. But I don't think I'll go back personally. But I think, I don't know. Speaking to people in the industry, I think petrol diesel cars may have hit very close to their peak, if so to speak, in terms of efficiency and technology. What we're seeing now is improvements in software. I think that's where the money is, and that's where improvements will be made. You could have a shell like an EV that lasts a long time physically, and you just keep upgrading the software. Because there are very few moving parts in an EV. We're talking like 20 moving parts versus 2,000 in a nice car. So you would think a car like an EV or a Tesla would not need that much maintenance in the long run.
But the people can't get the new car smell.
You'd probably buy it, couldn't you? Probably a software update to release it.
If we just look at EVs, for example, Tom, purely looking at technology point of view, right? Now, I'm sort of coming from an angle that pretty much safety tech in terms of, rear view, mission collect, connect, AEB, blind spot monitoring. Like it's the suite of safety features sort of seems quite complete. So I do wonder, what would software do going forward?
Yeah, look, I just did a software update video actually, and one of the features that I was really interested in was Tesla, I think, has improved seatbelt tensioning. Now, this is something I would never have thought of, but if the cameras sense a crash coming up within, I don't know, X number of meters, it'll actually tighten your seatbelt. It'll preempt at the crash, or if there is a crash, that seatbelt will tighten it before you actually impact, way before. That's an example of how software can actually monitor the road using AI, and then you can improve the driver's safety, before it even happens. Another example would be, I guess, again, pedestrians. If you don't see it as a human, but the camera spots it, it might actually stop the car before you make that mistake. I think that's where we'll be going in the future, and that will probably be a prelude to a self-driving vehicle where your eyes won't be as good as the camera's eyes.
Interesting. Great
in
answer.
5 to 10 years time. Yeah.
Got it. So very much software technology in terms of enhancements really comes down to the safety aspect to lead into full autonomy in terms of driving.
I think so. I think it needs to be a point where you and I are comfortable taking, handing over control to either the vehicle or a central control room monitoring your car. I don't know how long that's going to take, but I think at the way that we're going, it'll probably take a bit longer than a lot of us would like.
I'll put it out there, Tesla Tom. I'm still on the fence. I love the noise of a. I'm not a secret hoon, but I do love the noise, so to speak. The sort of the feel of an engine, the mechanics of it. I think I very much enjoyed the engineering behind it. Not to say that there's no engineering behind sort of EV motors. Okay, that's sort of interesting, and sort of because I just sort of saw maybe a bit of a plateau, I believe. And I suppose the argument is that if I have a car, or like an ICE car, for example, that pretty much has all the safety tech I need, why would I need to go into an EV car?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And look, I just going back to your point about it, the visceral feel of a petrol car. A lot of people have, and that is linked to memories they've had in the past. So, I mean, myself included. Like, I think of vinyl seats in the family car when I was a kid. Hot summer,
It got a bit sticky, but
yeah, that's right. You got fond memories from that point of view, or whether it's your first date in a ice car, whatever the case is. I get that. No, I think safety has not plateaued. I don't think so. I think there are improvements to be made. But again, it may have plateaued if you are controlling the vehicle. But if we're heading towards this self-driving paradigm, then I think there's still a lot of improvements down the line.
Interesting. And I could go anywhere with this sort of conversation. And I know when we first got into the conversation, we talked about a hot water issue, sort of resulting in an interest in sort of EVs, right? So if you don't mind me asking, Tesla Tom, your home is, you got the Tesla Powerwall going on. You've got solar, obviously generating the electricity, putting into your Powerwall. You would then charge it for your Tesla. I believe you have an S and a free. Is that correct? I believe
that's correct. Yes, 2 cars. Yep.
And essentially, would you say you're pretty much off the grid in a way?
Yeah, I wish I could say that. I think there are always improvements to be made. Like, I'm not 100% off grid by any means. The battery tech is probably not quite there yet in terms of storage space and cost.
Okay.
If I wanted to go off grid, I'd have to probably put a lot bit more money into buying more battery tech. And again, probably more solar panels as well.
Okay.
The cars do eat up a lot of charge during the night for the amount of driving I do.
Yeah.
In summer, I get pretty close, but in the depths of winter, when I need the heating for the house, probably could do better. But that's just me being a perfectionist. I could probably.
Hey, it's all about sort of self-improvement, right? So if you're telling me that if you sort of install more solar panels onto your roof, maybe have a higher capacity. So when you say battery tech, do you mean the capacity of the battery, or do you mean technology in terms of converting the solar energy into energy?
Probably more capacity. I would like to see, I don't know whether we'll get a denser battery. That's, I mean, batteries, I guess that's the issue with cars as well. Like, electric vehicles are heavy because batteries aren't as dense as obviously fossil fuel, right? So if you want a car with a bigger range, you need a bigger battery, and that will weigh the car down, requires more power, requires more battery. So it's kind of a loop. So same with the house. If I want more storage, I need to buy more battery. It's going to cost me more. So I'm hoping battery tech will improve to the point where I can buy one battery that is basically going to subsist my entire house of 4 people for most of the year.
But that's more of a capacity thing that would allow you to do that, eh?
Yeah. And I mean, I think in terms of transference from the solar energy to the battery, that's not bad. I get it. The Powerwall's capacity is 5 kilowatts, so I think that's adequate for my solar panel capacity, which is 8.4 kilowatts. So I'm not too fussed from that point of view. If you have more batteries, you can improve that draw as well from the solar panels. So,
but obviously, then you're trading up with the whole cost thing.
Yeah, correct. It's a cost issue. Yes. Yeah.
And I think given obviously the recent energy spikes, the war in Ukraine, I think it's definitely sort of coming up to the surface in terms of, is there an alternate way? But very much so, the tech is just, well, in a way, the tech is there, but it's just a balance of, do you get one more battery pack to increase the capacity? But obviously, there's a cost-benefit analysis there,
Yeah,
isn't there?
correct. At the moment, batteries take about 9 to 10 years to pay back, and that's about the
Yeah.
length of the warranty as well. My
Yeah.
Powerwall's 2016, so 6 years on, it's still doing okay. Still got pretty good capacity from what I bought it at.
Yeah.
Not much degradation. So, you know, I think if I can prove in 10 years it's not degraded that much, it's done its job, then I'd be more comfortable, I think, getting some more. But I'm hoping by then there'll be improvements as well in capacity and density.
Because I was sort of talking to sort of people in the industry, and they asked me, what would you need for it to do, Jeff, for you to make you convert?
What'd you say?
Actually, you can probably let me know about this, right? So on average, I don't really drive that much, right? So I would say on average, I probably drive 50 kilometers a week, which is minimal, right?
Very little.
And I'm very curious to see, and I've got a family of 4 too. So do you think that could work?
Oh, I think 50
based on your experience, or
50K is easy. I mean, the ABS tells us that the average person drives 50 kilometers per day. So at 50 Ks per week, you're way under average, which is ideal really for an EV. You know, and I presume you work from home to some degree, correct? Yeah. So, I mean, people who work from home, and obviously the pandemic has shown us that it is possible. You can easily park your EV in the carport, in the garage, while it's charging from the sun. And as you know, the sun shines during the day, so sun charges during the car during the day.
Yeah.
And you're essentially
ready to go,
free. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
Very easy. And look, I understand, you know, people enjoy having their ICE car still. You could, you know, for day-to-day driving, to go to work, you could have an EV that's a runabout car, and then you can have a weekend car where you can enjoy, I don't know, doing long road trips or whatever you want with your ICE car. You could probably have best of both worlds, I think, to offset what you do during the weekend.
My wife didn't allow me to buy a 2014 MX-5 Tesla Tom.
Okay.
It had low kilometers. It was red. It was very shiny, but it couldn't fit the kids' butt. So,
okay,
I got cut.
No comment. I'm not going to engage in that. What you do is your
got it. And compare it obviously to a supercharger. Yep. Did you live very close to a Tesla supercharger? Or?
No, I do 95%, 99% of my charging at home.
Oh wow, brilliant. Yeah. Okay.
I only use the superchargers either to demonstrate on my videos or when I'm on a road trip with a family.
So essentially, if you don't mind me, say you're from 0 and you have to charge it back up to full capacity. How will that take if you did it at home? Considering you've got the Powerwall, you've pretty much got the whole system ready to go, don't you?
Yeah.
And it's sort of quite an ideal sort of environment for any sort of EV owner. Would that be?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you don't. I mean, the battery is not compulsory. You can pick an energy plan that's got a cheaper rate at night, and you'd be fine. But to be honest, I've never actually done that 0 to 100% charge ever.
Okay, so you constantly sort of kept charged like a mobile phone battery in a way.
Yeah, correct. I just top it up every night to 80% or 90%. So people ask me a lot actually, how long does it take? I mean, I can theoretically tell you it'll take probably 7 to 8 hours if I wanted to do that, but I probably charge 1 to 2 hours at the most each day.
Okay, and you're consistent. You pretty much do it in. You probably get home, you park it back in your garage, you plug it in.
Yep,
and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's my habit. I mean, I obviously if I'm in and out of the house doing chores, I won't. But you know, if I'm home at 7, 8 o'clock after whatever work, or if I'm out, I'll just plug it in at night and then just go to bed.
I gotta go get over that hurdle.
Yeah,
in terms of constantly plugging it in, but. Like with anything, bit of a quick change in habit, you can sort of get there, right?
Yeah, I think most habits take 18 months to get going. So you know, shouldn't be too difficult for most people I think to do that, to change their habits. Yeah,
interesting. So you're pretty much good to go. Powerwall, solar, you got the cars. Sort of quite an ideal environment in terms of, like I said, an EV owner, right?
Yeah.
If you were to start again, what would you do differently?
If I was starting from a blank slate,
a blank slate.
Yeah, I probably I'll probably try and cover my roof or with solar as much as I can, and I still can do that. But obviously, it's been modularized over the years. I've added bits and pieces, whereas now I bit more knowledge in hindsight. I know, okay, this is the most efficient way to do it. I don't need
Just
to
go all out, so to speak, in terms of putting it on, right? Or...
Yeah, just chuck on the best, most efficient solar I can, micro inverters, battery, maybe one, maybe two even, but yeah, at least one battery. Chargers, I know which charger to get now. What's the best chargers? Which app is the best to use? Integrate solar with battery, and even the best EV to get now. Yeah, I think hopefully
we'll save that question. I've got a ton of questions around the best EV.
Yep, good. Yeah, but I'm hopefully new EV owners will hopefully learn from what I've showed over the years that it can be done. Yeah,
brilliant. And I know we sort of talked about it briefly in terms of allowing EVs to really ride that wave in terms of getting more adoption. Obviously, we talked about price being one of them. We talked about sort of accessibility in terms of how easily you can charge it. Now, I was actually watching one of your recent videos about, I think Ampol, I believe one in Alexandria, New South Wales, rolled out their chargers, I believe. And they use a European provider, I believe, by ABB in terms of the hardware.
Yep.
Was that looking at it seemed like a very smooth experience. I think the only thing that was sort of lacking was that there was no real place for you to sit, so to speak.
Yeah, that was my that's probably my biggest criticism of putting it into a service station like that doesn't have a place to sit. I mean, you can always sit in your car, of course, but yeah, I think that by the way is the pilot site for Ampol's AmpCharge program.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, that's number one. So they're planning to put 120 chargers initially across Australia. And what better place than a service station? I mean, it's already got most of the infrastructure, right?
Hey, if over time, like fossil fuels no longer sort of are needed for ICE cars, they'll probably take over, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, in an ideal world, if I was running the world, I would have a service station type model, but with a lounge. So a bit more, user friendly, where you plug your car in, go in there, freshen up especially on those big highways where there's not much else around.
Every 100k or 200k's, you might have a designated stop, for example.
That's correct. Yeah, make it super family friendly. The kids can go in there, play in the playground. You freshen up, have a cup of coffee, have a drink, have some food, sit around for 15-20 minutes, which the government recommends anyway, or motoring bodies recommend when you go on a long drive.
Yeah,
there's not new news here. making it possible. And then just back in the car once it's done, 20 minutes. As you know, with young children, you got to stop anyway on a road trip. It's not like, the kids don't last that long in the car.
No. It's going to be terrible if you go too long. And I think Japan does a pretty good job. I think in Australia, I think it's probably harder to justify from an RI point of view, since we really don't have, we do have those long distances, right? In terms of, 100, 200 kilometer gaps, but there's really nothing there. I think a country that does it very well, I'm not too sure actually, as a side point, if you know the answer, the EV adoption rate in Japan.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Because in Japan, right? I'm not too sure if you've been Tesla, Tom. They have a lot of these sort of stops along the way.
Okay.
And they basically perfectly describe what you talked about.
Okay. Like a rest stop.
You got a lovely restaurant. You got a lovely restroom. It's well presented, but it's justified by the larger population, of course, isn't it?
Yeah. That's right.
To work that investment, right? I'm sure you realize if you were to drive down to the Southern Highlands in New South Wales, as an example, or maybe the Great Ocean Road down in Melbourne, you do get your sort of your standard stops, I believe. Yeah,
as in they're not, I mean, they're the sort of basic stops rather than...
Yeah, they're more, if I were to make that comparison with the ones in Japan, it's your typical, fast food. Not saying there's anything wrong with that, right? But the Japanese do it very well in terms of, you got the convenience factor, you've got the lovely restaurants, you've got the rest area, you've got the cafe, you've got the kids area.
Yep.
So it's very much a perfect place for you to sort of charge, maybe 2-3 hours, take a bit of a break, and then come back.
Yeah. So Jeff, let me ask you, what will it take for us to adopt that, that pattern over here?
I don't know. I think, if you look at it very objectively, right, I think we need to find a balance between population density that will warrant such an investment, and also the EV adoption rate. And I think there's a multitude of factors in terms of increasing usage. And I think EV cars as a sales of total vehicle sales in July was only a meager, I don't know, 1 or 2%, I believe. As a joke, I did bring on someone from an EV charging company before, and we had a bit of a joke going on that we need to convince the ute lovers of Australia.
Yep.
So I think, and actually, I think a Chinese brand is coming out with an EV ute.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, I've heard a few actually. Which one did you hear?
I think it's a new Chinese brand.
Yeah.
But getting back to your original question, Tom, it's a tough one.
Yep.
I think, actually, do you find a lot of manufacturers are less inclined to bring in their vehicles here into Australia because of so many of these factors affecting EV usage or adoption?
Yeah, I think you've touched on an important issue there. Look, I think with the change of government, that's the rhetoric is changing. So the message is starting to soften, I think. Whereas previously, I think a lot of manufacturers were scared to bring their cars in because the environment was a bit hostile to EVs. But I think now, I think the Labor government is well, the bill was introduced to reduce fringe benefit tax for EVs. So that'll help employers get their employees into EVs. Reducing the import tariffs in countries that don't have an existing agreement. So small things like that, well, I shouldn't say small, big things like that will help companies to, be more confident knowing that the market exists here in Australia. And I think the next thing we need to do is probably introduce some sort of fuel efficiency standard where, cars above a certain threshold won't be allowed, into the country because they're just too dirty. So like governments can do a lot to help the policies.
But obviously that in itself is very much a political debate as well, in terms of what they can and can't do, kind of. Hey.
Yeah, that's correct. Look, I don't know. I mean, obviously there's a certain subset of the population that are resistant to change still to EVs. But then again, if you ask around, a lot of people don't mind it. Like they will be very happy. Like I'll give you an example. The Model Y, when that was released in Australia, the order page opened in Australia without any advertising, by the way. Let me tell you, there was no TV ads. I didn't see a single print ad at all. 10,000 orders in the first week, just like that.
Wow.
From the Tesla website. If you believe what BYD are telling me, that they're hoping to bring in 3,000 cars per month once they get going.
Wow, that's substantial.
The demand is there. It really is. We just don't hear about it because, I don't know. It's just not the ads. Really, we don't see on TV and in print media. It's just all happening behind the scenes.
I think sort of a slowly but surely, hey, isn't it? One of those sort of things, hey.
Yeah, correct. The other interesting thing is whether how much will existing car manufacturers allow their own sales to be switched over to cannibalized to EVs? Correct, because brands like Toyota, #1 selling brand in the world. I mean, you can understand why they're resistant to change, right? Their hybrids sell well, their ICE cars sell well, their utes sell well.
Yeah.
Why on earth would you change to an EV? So it's hard. Do we reach a moment where, like Kodak, where sure, our films sell well until they don't? So when does that happen? When does Toyota realize, actually, no one's buying ICE cars anymore?
The only thing that's certain is critics saying, "I told you so."
That would always happen.
That will always happen, eh?
Yeah, that's
because
right.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Toyota seems to be one of those manufacturers that haven't, correct me if I'm wrong, fully embrace EV manufacturing, or
yeah,
is that
that's right.
I'm not too sure, Tom. Is that
no, you're right. You're absolutely right. There's one really poorly named EV at the moment. It's like BZW. It's like a weird, odd sounding name, which doesn't sound very flattering. That's the only EV that I know, a pure EV that I know of that Toyota's trying to push.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's all hybrids, which they tell us it's self-charging, which it's not. But that's how they push it. Like
good marketing. I'm sold. Yeah, I'm sold.
Exactly. Pump the petrol, but charges the battery. See, what do you need an EV for? Yeah. But as I said, I can understand why they do it. Their sales are great with petrol, with diesel, with hybrids. So we'll see what happens.
See how I sort of roll away. And I think getting back to the whole, you touched upon it briefly, manufacturing, right? I remember the very infamous Elon Musk goes, these old manufacturers trying to, adjust their existing manufacturing capabilities to do EV. It's a monumental task, isn't it?
Oh, huge task, huge task. I mean, you look even just down to the granular level where you're comparing a ground up electric vehicle, 100% electric vehicle that's been produced or manufactured from scratch. The engineers have thought about how to make this car as efficient as possible. It's completely different to another vehicle that's sharing the same platform as a ICE car.
Yeah.
It's just these cars, they're not balanced. The battery's in the wrong spot. Whereas, the battery needs to be flat on the ground, like just small things like that. There's still a drive tunnel in the old ICE car platform EV. And you think these manufacturers are not serious. You're producing a car that's...
It's hard, but Tom, isn't it? Like
of course it's hard
to make that pivot.
Yeah, of course it is. But that, I'm just obviously being very critical, but that tells me you're still not serious. Like I think you need to go all in if you're serious about creating an EV. It's got to be ground up. It's got to be all you do. That way the consumer, me as a consumer buying from you, will know that, okay, you're serious. You're going to take, you're going to be serious about servicing my car if I need servicing. You're serious about putting in charges, supporting the software, et cetera, et cetera. You want the confidence as the buyer when you buy from a manufacturer like that. They're going to support you as the driver.
And could be a bit of a touchy question, Tom, so feel free not to answer. A lot of people say that EVs are very much a privileged undertaking. Would you agree or disagree, or feel free not to answer at all?
No, great question. I think, when I first bought my Model S, I'm happy to tell you that it was an expensive car, even for my, socioeconomic bracket. It's, 6 figures. And like for me, because I wanted a car that was EV, so I had to pay for it. And back in 2015, 16,
very early,
yeah, they're expensive cars. They really were. Like, not many people can afford a 6-figure car. Very, very lucky to be able to. But now with cars like BYD, with the cheaper Tesla, with even the Polestar 2, that's 50 grand, 60 grand. It's getting there. I think that has to change. People need to be able to afford an EV before they allow, before adoption happens from a mass market point of view. Not everyone can afford an ICE car either, right?
No.
So yeah, I don't think it needs to be affordable to everyone before it's accepted, but yeah, certainly a larger percentage.
It's there was a sort of an interesting thing where so what do you think about the whole sort of net zero thing? I hear rumors or stories or whatever you're going to call it, that the reason why America is going to hit net zero, like, I know it's a bit of a touchy subject, and we're going to treat it with respect. A lot of these ICE cars essentially just get exported out to a more of a developing country. They get it for the cheap. Country A might be net zero now, but then country B is skyrocketing.
Yeah,
bit of a tough one.
It's beyond my pay grade. I don't know all the stats, but that probably does happen to some degree in richer countries. I think even Norway, exports a lot of their gas and coal, or gas at least, to other countries. Australia exports a lot of coal to China, right?
We're not here to justify what's right or wrong. It is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of how it sort of works, eh?
Yeah.
Now, I was going to say this question for you before, because I thought it was actually quite interesting, and I was actually curious to see, right? If I gave you, Tesla Tom, all the resources, all the capability, all the intellect, all the people, and I wanted you to design an EV company, EV car, from the ground up, what would you do differently given what you know now?
Oh, wow, that's a good question.
Because don't get me wrong, Tesla Tom, you've gone through a lot of these sort of EV days with organizations in Australia, I believe. You've tested quite a few out. You're very, very knowledgeable about the area, and that's, I'm very thankful that you're here. How do you sort of approach that question?
Yeah, I've been asked that, but let me think about this.
Yeah, feel free to think about it, come back, whatever's good for you.
No, look, I think Tesla is whether you love or hate Tesla, Tesla is probably as close as it gets to getting it right so far. But they're by no means perfect, but their model is pretty good, right? They invested a lot of money initially into the charging network. And for me, that's still the number one priority for EVs. And I think back to, the very first petrol cars back in the day, back in the early 20th century, right? When people were switching over from horse and cart. And that's what made countries like America prosperous, having a road network and then having a petrol servicing network that will allow people to travel across the country. And that's how business prospers, being able to ship your goods left, right, and center.
The horse and carriage is now onto the train.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, trains, cars, rivers. So yeah, I mean, Elon Musk obviously got it right initially with a huge investment in the supercharging network, and it's still being rolled out. And that's what I would, if I had it my way, I would make sure the charging network is there, number one. And that way, a consumer who suddenly looks into EVs will go, oh, okay.
It's just like a petrol station. I can go anywhere.
That's right. I could go visit, Aunt Betty in, Western New South Wales. I can go visit cousin George in Victoria. I go to Queensland for holidays. I can drive across the Nullarbor Plain to Perth. And I'm suddenly comfortable spending 50 grand, 60 grand on an EV because I'm not limited by where I need to go. And then, the concession is that EVs take longer to charge. And the next thing I would invest in is make sure we've got hubs where we've got good service stops, as we've mentioned before, places to stop for the kids, to rest, to eat, to drink, and they're 24 access, they're well lit, they're well serviced, they're good security, all that stuff.
They're maintained, they look good.
They're cleaned, yeah.
And it's not bread and butter, isn't it?
I know, exactly. It sounds simple, but obviously very expensive to implement. And knowing that, resources are not infinite, are not unlimited. So I guess we've got to do what we can. But on the flip side, if you invest in things like this, then I think that will help the economy, knowing that people can get around and do their business in an EV. Then the next thing I would do is make sure that the manufacturing process is net zero, or at least as efficient as possible. And the fuel is not from fossil fuel, if possible as well. I mean, I've looked at this in the past. I mean, if you speak to companies organizations like Zero Emissions, there's a group like that in Australia. They can tell you that it is possible. I'm not a scientist by any means, but you can actually produce, you can manufacture without fossil fuel. I'm sure it can be done, but yeah, it's something I'd have to probably research more.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong, your answer seems very much about the peripheral infrastructure around it.
Yep, correct.
What about the design and engineering of the car itself? Yep. If you were to build it from the ground up again?
Yeah. Look, there's two schools of thought on this. I mean, okay, first of all, the car, I think, needs to be, from the mechanical point of view, needs to be as efficient as possible. And I still think the skateboard design, where the battery sits on the floor of the vehicle, is the best way to go. That way it's lower to the ground, it's got a lower center of gravity, less likely to tip over. So safety already is good from that point of view. I don't think it should be in the front or the back of the car. Those days are over with petrol cars.
I think from a physics point of view, I think you've got to keep it at the base.
Correct. So that's number one. And I think Tesla's now doing single cast or two casting type.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, shells, and that's more efficient in the manufacturing process.
Sorry, Tom, is that a whole cast or two together?
It depends which factory you get your car from. I think Shanghai, where our cars come from, it's two at the moment. Yeah, whereas I think Berlin's one. I'll have to look up on that.
Got it.
So a more efficient manufacturing process, and then obviously it's got to be as safe as possible. And then the rest is really, I don't know. I think it's quite personalized. Whether you like a screen, like an iPad in the middle of your car, or whether you like more buttons, I think it's a personal taste issue.
Got it. And just a side point, so I don't forget the question. Just Tesla supercharger, 0 to 100, was it a couple of hours, I believe, 1 hour or less? Or
no, not even that. No, I think it's 45 minutes.
Okay,
0 to 100%. Wow. Yeah.
Got it. But obviously you can't put Tesla superchargers everywhere because I understand they require a different infrastructure set.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, they won't allow you to have it in your home. It's like, huge outlay. Yeah, I think, okay, well, that's why they've got 3 levels of, well, yeah, two main levels of charging. You've got supercharger DC chargers, and then you've got the slower ones where you can put into restaurants, shopping centers, so you can do something else, come back to your car, and you've got some top up after you've done.
What's interesting, I think the whole range anxiety term is no longer applicable. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're close to seeing the end of that. Look, so surely the older EVs with like 100, 200 Ks, sure, I would get range anxiety with that. But with 400 Ks, where most new EVs are about that mark, that's probably enough to get you to the next charging stop and do $1 again. Yeah.
I'm actually curious, Tom. I read somewhere, I'm not too sure whether this is going to be the future, solar panels on the roof.
Solar tiles, you mean?
Solar tiles, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, tiles, yeah.
Yeah, that's the way to go. Yeah.
Has there any been updates on that from Tesla? Or like, I think that'd be pretty cool, right? If you're literally far away from nowhere, you literally, take a car outside, let the sun hit it, and charges your battery enough to take it to the nearest stop. Have they improved upon that, or?
I think the density of the panels still aren't as good. But you could, I mean, sure, you can. I think there's actually a group going around Australia at the moment with like a rollout solar tiles where they stop and then they roll it in the desert or somewhere with lots of sun, and then
I'm thinking built into the roof.
Oh, into the roof of the car. Yeah, okay, yeah. Look, I think probably not enough to power the car. You need a lot of torque to get it going, to get a car going, but maybe for charging. Like
for charging. For charging, like super emergency.
Yeah. No, yeah, sure. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. Yep.
Well,
Tesla cars don't have it yet, but yeah.
We'll leave that to the engineers, right? Or...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Got it. And I'm being very fascinated by what Hyundai is doing.
Which part?
The EV6.
Right. Yes.
The EV5. What do you think about Hyundai in terms of? They seem to be really upping the game and really going all in.
So Hyundai and Kia share the same platform. It's called EGMP, the same EV platform. And so Hyundai have released Ioniq 5, that's production car, and EV6 for Kia. So they're very similar cars actually when you drive them, but they look different. But same platform, great cars. Yeah, great cars. Hyundai and Kia have done very well to bring themselves out of a kind of more budget look in the last 20 years to now quite a premium, offering in Hyundai's Ioniq 5 and Kia EV6. No, I was very impressed with them actually. Very good alternative.
Did you get a chance to drive them?
I did. They were kind enough to give me both cars respectively for a week.
Got it. And very, very similar to a Tesla in a way, or different in some way? What's
similar? I mean, I'd probably say the infotainment unit could be improved from a UX point of view. Tesla just seems very simple to use. So, but yeah, everything you need.
But the drive is very similar.
The drive's fine. Yeah, the drive's perfect. Yeah, we went for a long drive on the highway, and the kids in the back enjoyed it. Yeah,
because essentially, when you have the motors, for example, for the EV, it's instant torque.
Yep.
So there's no real differentiation. Would that be maybe incorrect, or?
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean the each car's got their own 0 to 100 acceleration time. But yeah, I think both cars were fine. I think I got the pretty high performing ones for both variants. So they were like 0 to 100 in 4 or 5 seconds, which is quick enough for me.
So if I took away your Teslas and you couldn't buy a Tesla anymore, who would you go with?
Oh, are you talking about the whole field or just between the two?
Whole field.
Oh gosh. If there wasn't Tesla in the world. Gee, that's a tough one now.
Sorry,
sad world.
I did tell you that these questions were. I did tell you these questions were coming, right?
Yeah. Look, I would say I was very happy with the EV6. Actually, I was very impressed with that car.
As a family man, still an EV6.
Yeah, still with EV6. Yeah. The Hyundai Ioniq 5 was pretty good. Pretty much up there. Polestar is a good offering as well. Nice, European design. Even the BYD, it's good value for money for 50 grand, like a lot of features.
You know who I found has sort of dropped off the radar a bit? I-Pace.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Let me be careful what I say. The Jaguar I-Pace. Yeah, I drove that early on. That was designed with a lot of. It is
recorded, Tom, but like I said, we're all about diversity of thought. We're all about just saying it how it is. And what do you think of the Jaguar I-Pace?
I think it needs an update, needs a refresh. I've saw it back in 2009, 18 or 19.
You mean the look of it, or you mean the actual powertrain, so to speak, on a motor?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't go probably don't know a lot about the actual manufacturing of it, but yeah, the way the infotainment screen was, the way it drove, probably needs an update. I think the screen was not very responsive. But look, as a car, it still drives okay, right? A car's a car. I think I was happy with it. Yeah.
And I think I saw the other day an iX, I believe. It was about the same size as an X5, I believe. It was sort of quite big, quite square at the back. I think BMW have sort of get into that as well, haven't they?
Yeah, no, I haven't driven that one yet, so I don't know. Can't comment on that just yet.
Yeah,
but yeah, I've seen good reviews from the press. So yeah,
interesting, eh? So very much the future, so to speak, in terms of where we're heading towards. I know, like we said, we covered quite a few areas in terms of how we can increase the adoption. Probably a bit of a tough question in the sense of when would you see a bit of a peak, a bit of a tip over in terms of seeing this. But I know it's a bit of a forecast, and it will always be a forecast because you can't tell the future. When would you like to see EVs really take up?
Yeah, look,
because I know you're not a car guy. You're very much more interested in the EV and renewable space and all, aren't you?
Yep. Yeah. The last I read, 2021, the US had 3% EV adoption. That's the highest, one of the highest in the world. Norway's pretty good as well up there. In Australia, we're still, as you know, sort of high twos last year, 2021. I reckon 30% would be the number to aim for. Once we reach 30%, the S curve will start to take off.
Give me a time.
Oh, what are we now? 2022. The first Model S came to this country in 2014, 2015. We're already 7 years down the track. What are we now? The target, well, the ACT set a target of 2035 when they want all new car sales to be EVs. So
did that get passed, or?
Yeah, I think so. That's now formal. What are we now? 2022. I think 2025, 26. Yeah. Late this decade, I would say. We might start seeing that push. Yeah. Yeah.
So quite some time away.
I think so. It seems very slow at the moment, but I think we still need to see more manufacturers being confident bringing their cars in. As I said before, I think a lot of the cheaper cars will come out of China for the next 5 to 10 years.
Got it.
Will make it affordable. Once people get over, some people just don't want to buy Chinese at the moment. For obvious reasons. Yeah, it is what it is. Once people get over that, that bias, then I think we'll start to see adoption. Yeah.
Has there been a model recently? I'll give you an example, right? I thought the EQS was actually quite interesting.
The Mercedes.
Mercedes. Albeit, I'm just going to put it out there, seems quite boring. Like, I'm not saying I'm a hater of EVs, but it's not all about the straight line acceleration.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. I don't know. Maybe we need to see EVs race first for people to love them. We need like a Formula 1 for EVs. I know there's a Formula E, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it'll take.
So what do you think of the EQS?
I haven't driven it yet. I've driven the EQC, and for the price you pay, it's a good car. If people like Mercs, it'll be good for them. Yeah, it's very, very much Mercedes. You're sitting there like, okay, I'm in a Merc.
Oh, have they also changed the platform, or were they using the existing C-Class, I believe?
I think it's ground up. I believe it's ground up too.
Ground up.
Skateboard. Yeah.
Oh, the whole skateboard battery on the bottom.
I think so.
That's how it sort of operates, eh?
Yep.
Wow. And what was the recent model that you test drove? I'm very curious.
Yeah, the Polestar 2 was the one I recently drove. Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed that one.
More sort of a more everyday car as opposed to performance oriented. Would that be right? Or
yeah. I mean, it's got a different variants, but it can very much function as a everyday car. Yeah, I mean, it's owned by Geely Motors, which owns Volvo now. So yeah, very much Volvo.
Actually, my apologies. Polestar, isn't that more the performance brand of Volvo?
No, Polestar is purely EV. Now it is.
Polestar is purely EV.
Yeah,
I thought it was always a performance variant of Volvo.
No, they share this very similar components, owned by Geely Motors,
Got it.
Chinese brand now. Yep.
Got it. And in terms of the overall experience?
No, it's good. Polestar were kind enough to invite me to their media day. They gave me a car for a week to drive as well. And yeah, no, it's when you step in there, it feels nice. Good materials, feels very luxurious. Certainly more of a premium feel than some of the other brands. So, you know, it's certainly a very viable alternative to Tesla.
Got it. And let's sort of steer back to the personal garage of Tesla, Tom. Obviously, the Model 3 is a bit more newer. Is that correct? More
than my S. Yes.
Is that correct? Or
the S is 3. Sorry, 3 is 3 years old now. So 2019.
So the Model 3 is 3 years old. Sorry.
Our one is 3 years old. Yes.
Got it. And obviously, apart from the size of the vehicles, pretty much similar in a way, or driving wise.
Yeah, no, driving wise, the 3 is zippier. It's a smaller car. It seems to handle better. It goes around turns, just feels a bit zippier. Also because we've got a performance 3 as well, so it certainly feels faster off the mark. The S is, you know, the classic saloon. It's more of a land yacht. It's sitting there,
bit of a cruising,
very luxurious. Yeah, good suspension.
I thought you were going to tell me it was a Play, but I don't think Tesla Model S Play came out back in 2016.
No, unfortunately not. No, I'd love to drive one of those, but no, not a Plaid.
Not a Play, though.
Yeah.
And have you tried the Model X?
I have, yes. We've hired it a couple of times on road trips.
I'm guessing since it's a bit higher up, you might feel a bit more of the sway in the body.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Again, feels like a big car. Feels like a big car, but passengers love it. It's very, very, very comfortable in there. Lots of room.
Falcon wings.
Falcon wings, always a showstopper. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Big talking point.
And you mentioned the cars being now delivered at Port Botany, I believe. Is that correct?
I think Port Kembla. That's where they dropped off.
Port Kembla, right? Are these your performance-orientated ones, or are these your standard rear-wheel drive with the smallest battery pack?
So the Ys that are coming currently are rear-wheel drive at the moment. The performance ones are coming in November.
So when you say performance, you mean dual motor, front and back. Is that correct?
Yeah, dual motor, faster acceleration, higher top speed, luxury pack,
bigger battery.
Yes. Yep.
Got it. In terms of how it all works, eh? And I'm curious to see whether they'll come up with a Ute. Actually, no, they do have the Cybertruck, eh? That could sort of turn a couple of minds, eh?
Yes. Still not a single production one has come off yet the line. So I think they're going to be built in Texas, Gigafactory, Texas. Yeah, that'd be good. I mean, it's very polarizing once again. You know, the design when it first came out, it seemed odd, but then you look at it after a while, you think, oh yeah. I mean, if you want a tough car, that's what you would design, right? Something that's almost bulletproof, stainless steel shell, just looks cool. Yeah, I think it'll sell well.
Interesting, eh? And you know, I've been gone forever. You are aware we've gone over an hour already, right?
Hey, no, it's good. In
this conversation, right? And I could probably ask you another tough, googly questions, mate. But now this one's a special request. Now, I did have a certain individual come to me to get this individual on board, and here you are. So thank you very much, Tesla Tom, for appearing on this podcast episode, right? Now, he gave me a question that he wanted me to pass on to you.
Okay.
And thank you to him too for the opportunity and bringing you to me as well, which I'm very thankful for, right? Now, I think you probably answered the question already in terms of the EV6, if Tesla wasn't here, right? I gave you a checkbook where you could write any number you wanted. Now, we're going to broaden the range to cars in general. You can go ICE, you can go EV, you can go Bugatti if you wanted to. It's an open checkbook for Tesla Tom. What would you buy?
It would be EV for sure.
Yep.
The EV.
Personally, for yourself, let's try to sort of not park the kids for the time being and the wife. I know they're very special people, but just for you.
Okay. Yeah, let me explain. It would still be EV because look, as beautiful as the other ICE cars are, I just cannot bring myself to drive an ICE car anymore. I think it'd be beyond what I believe is the mission for the world. They've got their place, but personally, I wouldn't drive one anymore. So in terms of EVs, I would still like to see the Tesla Roadster come to production.
I think that's possible with an open checkbook, right?
Yeah, definitely possible.
Why is that?
A Roadster 2.
Why is that?
I don't know. It's just it's when it first was announced, it just looked cool. It looked cool. It's got all the specs. It'll smash most production cars. Straight line, of course. It's got the range. And yeah, I think if it was just for me, that's probably what I would drive. It fits the bill. A close second would be probably the top spec Tesla Model S Plaid. It's a very cool looking car as well. Again, the specs are there. I could probably drive a long way to Melbourne on just the one charge without having to top up again. Yeah, it'd be a nice everyday car to have. But between the two cars, I think that's what I would have. The other one is the Rimac. There's a Croatian brand called Rimac.
Oh, Rimac.
Yeah, Rimac or Rimac. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but I think that's the only car that can beat the Tesla the Tesla Roadster off the line. I think
is that a production car or is that more of a concept car?
I think that might be a concept car still, but I think I saw Top Gear or Top Gun, Top Gear or what's the other one? Grand Tour tested a few years ago off the line, 0 to 100 in 1.8 seconds.
But I think I crashed it, right?
Was that the one that crashed? Maybe.
I did.
I think it was. Yeah. What's his name? Richard Hammond or something. Crashed it. Yeah, that's the other one I would be interested in purchasing if they allowed me to, with an open checkbook.
You've got an open checkbook, so you can literally buy anything you want.
Yeah.
Lovely. Well,
can I buy those 3 cars? I'll take those 3.
You can. Not too sure I'm the one paying for it, but it is open.
Nice.
Tesla Tom, thank you very much for appearing on this episode of the Medium Podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're welcome, Jeff. Thank you very much for having me. And hopefully, what I've said has been of use to your viewers. But I'm
still not converting it.
No, that's fine. No. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to look up my channel, and I'm happy to answer as best as I can.
Definitely. And I'm more than happy to sort of include the necessary links onto your website. And enjoy your Teslas.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks for having me. And thanks, everyone.